Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range with a new 1911 that's on the market. It's being imported by SDS. This is the same company that brought you the Lynx 12 gauge shotgun, and they're importing a 1911 A1 copy from Turkey, and it's made by Tisas, and we featured Tisas firearms here on the channel before. But before we get into showing you the new handgun, the clone, I wanted to show you an original. You've seen this handgun before here on the channel. This is my 1944 Colt. That is a World War II manufactured gun, all original components. We're gonna start off shooting this handgun, then we're gonna show you the SDS handgun side by side so you can get an idea of how close it clones the actual World War II M1911A1. So I'm gonna go ahead and load the weapon up here really quick for you. I have some Federal 230 grain ball. It's American Eagle. Federal does supply this ammunition to the channel for free. We greatly appreciate their support, and I'm going to go ahead and insert that into the firearm. I don't like shooting these old guns too much because if I break a part, I'm breaking an original part. But fortunately, the 1911 is a fairly robust design. All right, we'll fire off 7 rounds here really quick. I love shooting this gun, guys. I absolutely love shooting this gun. And I know a lot of you out there would enjoy shooting a 1911 as well in its military trim, but they're really expensive. A handgun like this, I don't even know what it's worth. I've had it for so many years, but on the collector's market, these things are gonna bring thousands and thousands of dollars. So wouldn't it be nice if you could pick up something that almost perfectly clones this handgun for as little as $339, which is what I did. I bought it from Classic Firearms. I think that's a pretty good deal if the gun's of good quality. Let's take a look at the Tisas M1911A1 from SDS Imports. I would like to thank Big Daddy Unlimited, who helps support us here at the Military Arms Channel. Big Daddy Unlimited is a buyer's club of sorts, and for $9.99 a month, you get access to pretty much all the top distributors out there that are selling firearms. That cuts out the middleman, that gives you quite often the best price you're going to find anywhere online. I do have a special discount code, which is 20% off, which you can find over on our Facebook page. We can't post it here on YouTube. And please swing by, check it out. The first month is only 99 cents. You can get in and see all the great deals that there are to be had. And then after that, using our code, or our link, I should say, you'll be able to stay a member for $7.95 or something like that. So please, guys, swing by and check out Big Daddy Unlimited. They're a bunch of great guys. I use them all the time. So this is it, guys. This is the Tisas M1911A1 as imported by SDS. And if you take a look at the gun, it is a very, very good looking copy of the 1911A1 pistol. The finish on it is absolutely superb. I have been impressed with the function of the gun so far. This is not our first range session with the handgun. We've been shooting nothing but 230 grain ball, which is what the guns were designed to function with, which is a military load. I mean, it has pretty much every feature you'd expect on a 1911 A1 version. You know, the short trigger, you have the slide lock safety, and I want to point out that the safety is very positive. A lot of times when you get lower cost 1911s, you'll find that this thing is just pitiful. For whatever reason, for me, this is one of those sticking points. If it doesn't have a nice positive safety selector, I don't like the handgun, but this one has one. It's very easy to disassemble, doesn't require any tools, it's not fit too tightly. As a matter of fact, after we had been firing it before, when I took it apart and cleaned it, I was surprised at just how little wear there was on the slide rails, which means that the frame and the slide are working together in such a way that they're not grinding against each other. The fitment, in other words, is really good on the handgun. All right, so let's go ahead and lock the slide back here. It comes with one 7-round magazine. One of the things I'll ding it for is magazines work fine, but the metal used in their construction is really thin. And you can kind of feel it flexing a little bit when you're using something like an uplula loading tool to load the magazine. It'll flex and kind of stick inside the uplula where a standard USGI magazine will not. But it looks like a USGI magazine, and again, we've had no functional problems with the factory magazine. All right, Mr. Challenge target, a little ways out there, has the exact same sight picture as the 1944 Colt. Yep, shoots really, really nice. All right, so now that was with the factory magazine. This is a Wilson 47D. These are magazines I use in my carry 1911s, and they work just fine with this pistol as well. Yep. Now you will find, I'll have to grab an empty magazine, that with a standard GI beaver tail and the hammer coming back, you will get some slide bite or hammer bite. And that's normal for me when I'm using a traditional styled 1911. You can see a little bit of blood coming through. Now you can avoid that by using a slightly lower grip and rotating your hand around just a little bit. But if you're going to shoot these a bunch, and last few days we fired hundreds of rounds through this handgun, you're going to get that bite on your hand. Just a little bit uncomfortable. You'll notice that on modern 1911s, they've widened this so it doesn't do that, and they bring it out a little bit further. It's called a beaver tail. And it really does make a modern 1911 much more comfortable to shoot. The trigger on this thing is really, really nice, as all 1911 triggers are. First of all, you have the grip safety. So if you pull the trigger without engaging that grip safety, the gun will not fire, and as you can see, it's properly functioning. It also has that manual safety, so even if you have the grip safety depressed, the gun won't fire while that safety is engaged. Take that off, grip it, and pull the trigger. Now the hammer is going to fall. But what's really nice about the 1911 is you don't have a pivot pin or the trigger pivots like it would on more conventional handguns. The trigger on 1911 moves straight back, and that gives it a very good feel. You'll also notice if you watch, as I take up the slack, I immediately hit the shear self right there, and if I push any further, it breaks and stops. And that's true of even the military 1911s. They have really, really surprisingly good triggers in them. And that's one reason why the 1911s shoot so well for so many different people. Not only are the ergonomics really, really good on the handgun, but it has one of the best triggers in history with regards to not just military handguns, but handguns in general. That's why you still see them being used in competitions all over the place. It's just a really nice handgun to shoot. All right, let's load it up again, do some more shooting. Let's take a look at the original 1944 Colt that was built obviously during World War II, which I have here, and we'll compare it to the SDS 1911A1. Now if you look at them side by side, you're going to notice they look almost perfectly identical. This definitely has the A1 features, has the arched mainspring housing, and it has the short trigger. The markings are going to be the biggest giveaway that the two guns aren't of the same manufacturer. So over here you're going to have the Colt markings. It says U.S. property on it. Then over here it says 1911A1 U.S. Army. These dark polymer plastic looking grips are period correct for late war production 1911. You'll notice the slide serrations. If you take a look at this gun, the grips, slightly different color. The checkering's a little bit more coarse, or I'm sorry, a little bit more fine. It's more coarse on the original, but the slide serrations look good. The markings, even though this is SDS Knoxville, Tennessee, and then a serial number on the frame, it's marked similarly to the government model of 1944, but the marking's a little bit different. Now, if we flip the guns over, you're going to notice that things are considerably different. So here we have the Colt markings that were normal for Colt to do. We have some acceptance marks that are right here just underneath the slide stop, slide release. On the Tisas pistol, you're going to have model 1911A1 U.S. Army. That's not correct, but it looks good. And then you have the actual manufacturer's name here, Tisas, and it's made in Turkey. If you take a look at the controls, everything looks good. You have slightly different texturing on the slide stop on the original, but everything on here looks really, really good. A few differences you're going to find that are just, talking about cosmetics. The sights look good, very, very similar to each other, but on the original, the knurling on the hammer is more fine. The hammer isn't very broad. If you take a look at the copy, it's a wider hammer and much more aggressive knurling on the end. But other than that, you know, everything looks good. The grip safeties, the trigger's magazine release, the texturing on the magazine release looks good. The texturing on the mainspring housing looks good. They both have their lanyard loops. It's a very, very, very close copy of the original. One last thing that we'll point out. Try not to dent peaches here. If you take a look at the ejection port on the original, notice how high this is right here. On the Tisas copy, you're going to see that they've lowered that ejection port. That's done, that was done later. The military government models are going to look like this. This was done in the civilian world to improve reliability. But yeah, that's probably the biggest glaring difference between the two, besides the hammer and the markings. It would be the differences in the ejection port. The Model 1911 is easily one of John Browning's greatest designs. This handgun has influenced handgun designs all the way up to modern times. Its locking system is what's most often copied. That Glock 19 that you're carrying in your waistband right now, it's based on the Browning action. The XD, pretty much every modern handgun, Smith & Wesson, M&P, all those modern handguns are based on the work that Browning did at the turn of the century on the 1911. And so this handgun really is a living piece of history, and it's really fun to get a clone like this of one of the original military handguns. So the ergonomics on the gun are really, really good. You'll find that the fire controls are usually pretty easy for people to reach. Some folks will say that because they have, you know, shorter hands or smaller hands than I do, they can't reach the slide release. One way you can do that is how I reload the pistol, and that's take the magazine, insert it into the pistol grip, and then I reach up with this hand and hit the slide release. Now, some people will say, that's not a slide release, Mac, it's a slide stop. What side are the serrations on? How's it contoured? It's contoured so you can push down on it with your thumb. John Browning designed it to be a dual-use tool. You can push it up to lock the slide to the rear, you can push it down to release the slide, and reload the pistol. So yes, it is a slide stop, slide release. All right, a little bit more federal ammunition here. The sights on these things are really, really funny because they're traditional military sights, which are really kind of poor. Locked open on that one, dropped free. And we got one more of those Wilson mags here. And locks open. As you can see, the gun's shooting a nice tight group down there. It's about 8 to 10 yards away. Those sights are spot on. So the quality of the gun seems to be spot on, guys. We have had no malfunctions with this handgun. We've been shooting it for several days, and we've put hundreds of rounds to this thing, and it had no malfunctions. I cleaned it once just to take a look at it because I was looking for peening of metal parts, and I couldn't find any anywhere whatsoever actually in the handgun, just ever so slightly somewhere on the slide rails of the finish, which is perfectly normal. One other thing I did notice is that the slide bite that I'm getting seems to be even more common with this handgun because they've widened this hammer spur so much, which this is not period correct, at least not with my example, but they've widened this spur so much that that hammer comes back and hits my hand right there where the bloody spot is. So I think that widened hammer is contributing to that hammer bite that I'm getting with the handgun. But it's manageable. It works with the magazine that it ships with. You can pick up some affordable USGI magazines, or you can run some of the more expensive Wilson Combat 47Ds. I've used these for many, many years on my carry guns, and they've always performed very well. So overall, guys, for $339, this is an exceptional buy. Sometimes you'll hear that saying that if it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. The pricing on this thing when I first bought it, and again, I paid $339 from Classic Firearms for it, I thought it was too good to be true. It was going to have sloppy fitment. The finish wasn't going to be good on it. Something was going to be wrong with it at that price point, because I've seen guns that cost more than this from the Philippines and places like that I simply wouldn't buy because the quality was so bad. This handgun doesn't have any of those problems, and that's really mind-blowing to me. So if you're in the market for a government model, if you're a reenactor, or if you just want a classic 1911 to go to the range and practice with, I think you might like this SDS M1911A1. It certainly represents a great value. Guys, if you would like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, we don't take money from companies like SDS. We are supported by you, our viewers. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can become a Patreon supporter. There's a link down below. You can also become a YouTube member. And there's a membership program. Just click the little join button you see right below the video player and consider becoming part of our YouTube membership program family. It's got some extra perks and stuff in there that you can check out if you click the join link. And last but not least, swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Guys, thanks for 12 years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon. It's a classic for a reason. 2 world wars.